Hi, I'm Lacey Seibert, and we're going to keep talking about relationships in ag because they're really important. And this next panel discussion, we're going to talk about how we can really facilitate those relationships and grow those between our farmers, the people that we're trying to serve, and what kind of proactive activities that we can do within our organizations to do that. So whether you're a large co-op, a small independent retailer, connecting with those farmers should be really important and critical to your business around building loyalty. And so today we have some pros that do this in their day job. All they do is think about how businesses can promote what they're working on. And so we're going to talk about how you can do that in agriculture. And so I would just like to open it up to you ladies to introduce yourselves and tell the audience what you think is going to be really impactful over the next couple of years when you think about agribusinesses promoting themselves.
My name is Jen Halvorson. I'm the Vice President of Customer Experience for Prime 46. And at Prime 46, we do strategy and research consulting, helping businesses, agribusinesses, helping them to understand their customers so that they can make informed business decisions from, why is their customer churn, or how can we help new sales reps enter into a market with maybe a product that is unknown. The thing I think to be considered from the next couple of years will be the hyper-personalization, and hyper-personalization of relevant communications will become more and more important. All of that backed by AI, agents, and really clean, organized data will be critical in the future.
My name is Katy Bruce. I am the Director of Agriculture at Root and Beta, and we are a marketing agency that is full service, but we really specialize in ROI through paid media, and we cater to the agriculture space because that's where our experience is. And as I look ahead, I think especially with the mentality of agriculture, you're always trying to figure out how to do more with less, and how can we help our partners do that and facilitate that efficiency, and really be a partner to them. So those relationships are huge as well.
I'm Bridgette Readel. I am the Ag Director for WDAY Radio here in town. I'm a business partner in the AgMafia, and I'm the owner of Lilac Lane Media. When I think about what we're going to be doing in the future, there are so many wonderful technologies we can participate in. Let's face it, we're talking about AI. Everything from targeted optic sprayers to using electronic fencing with our cows like they're great big dogs with collars on. But more importantly, let's not forget somewhere in there is a human being. And we have to make sure that in that hyper-specialized selling to them, that we not only make sure to recognize belly-to-belly selling is still a tactic, but additionally, we have to ensure that those who are doing the selling, enabling them on how to have that interpersonal interaction. So is there an easy solution? Nope, but there's a whole lot of tools.
Thank you guys. I love all of those thoughts and ideas, and I think, again, it rings true that relationships are still king in agriculture, and we've got to figure out how we facilitate those. And I think our group here, we have such a variety of sizes and budgets that could really be deployed when we're talking about marketing and promoting things. So let's start maybe talking about AI and modern marketing tools. When you think about AI and how it's transforming marketing teams, or maybe they don't even have a marketing team, what are some practical ways you think our agribusiness customers can use AI to market to their customers today?
Well, I think they have to be smart. First and foremost, if you're going to use AI, fact check it. Because far too often, I can watch on a social media scroll what actually had a human touch to it and what didn't. And it's a wonderful tool. Just don't forget to make sure that it rings true. Because a farmer is the first person who's going to call bullshit if you got it wrong.
So true.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is we're finding a lot of help in getting voice of customers. So talking to farmers, understanding their concerns and their pain points and what's relevant to them, and then taking the the voice of the sales managers, right? The sales reps. What are they hearing? Taking that information and then using that with AI so that what AI is, because there's huge efficiencies, great ideas, great brainstorming, but it's not relevant unless you're actually using the voice of the customer. So blending those two together is critical. Otherwise, it's just the blanket AI without any personalization.
Absolutely. Train it.
And I do think that it helps to make you more efficient. Yeah, obviously, you don't want to lose that human touch, but it can really accelerate your content, where we know that having that consistent messaging and talking to your audience on a consistent basis, where you're not just selling to them, but you're giving them tools. AI can be a great source to kind of have that rough draft, and then you hone that, and it makes you more efficient and able to crank out more often so that you can be consistent with your audience. So I think that's great value too.
I like that thought. So you guys were behind stage, but they got to see our new buddy tool. And one of the things Randy pointed out is that you have to train it. And so I agree, Katy, you have to start and feed it the information and give it the voice of the customer, and then it can learn from that. So with that in mind, what are some things that you think marketers should not be doing with AI?
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off what I just said of really honing it. It's a great first draft, but if you give over your brand voice to AI and it starts to sound robotic, or it doesn't feel authentic to your company or your brand, then you've already lost your audience, and it doesn't really matter what you say because it doesn't sound authentic.
And I would piggyback off of that and say, you can create the content, but is it working, right? So I've seen people using AI to create a ton of blog posts or a ton of social posts, but they're either not speaking to the right audience, or they're not, so there's no measurement behind it.
Sure.
So making sure that that there's a reason and a strategic plan for why you're communicating. What problem are you trying to solve? What value are you bringing? So that's most important, and it gets lost in, we need blog posts and we need social posts because everyone's out there, but it lacks relevancy and value.
Yeah, pick and choose where it should go. It doesn't have to be everything.
Yeah, you don't have to use it for every project, sure. Let's talk about what's not changing when we think about how we want to market to farmers or market in agriculture. Despite new tools and technology, what hasn't changed about connecting with farmers?
One-on-one, still being able to be a resource to that farm, to that agribusinessman. Too often, folks are sent out with a pickup and a price list and say, go sell, but not given any tools in which to do it. And so help those folks be a good resource, not only for the fact that they know their product well, but then also that farmer wants to come back to you and make sure that you help them make better business decisions, or that agribusiness does. Again, I don't want to lose the human element in all the things that we do.
Right, and I would, back to that one-on-one, it's surprising how much I've heard in interviews and talking to people. People don't pick up the phone. They're like, we call and they just don't call back, or they don't pick up the phone. And for me, I don't understand it. But it's being there for people, talking to people, talking one-on-one. There's energy shared between the one-on-one, and also about how they want to communicate. If they'd rather text, great, text. But no, the value of the one-on-one, that's absolutely critical.
And I think the feedback you may hear with that too is, okay, one-on-one's great, but how do I do that at scale? And I think it's something you absolutely can do, because people connect with people, not products. So if you can carry that storytelling into your online presence, whatever that may look like, whether it's social media or on your website, you can still have that face-to-face connection through a story at scale.
Yeah, so you guys all said something to the effect of person-to-person communication. What messaging principles besides that still work and will probably always work in your mind?
Relevancy. Do you know what the current business climate is, situation that needs to be worked on? Because things happen so fast in technology, but in the news, if a news story happens, we forget about it in 3 days. So whatever message we're crafting, it's got to be quick, because many companies that have their own anti-sales force just holds them back a little too far. So we got to make sure that we're responsive.
Yep, I completely agree with that. And the relevancy comes back to talking and listening, right? And then gathering that. So making sure that if different people are having conversations, think about when I talk about the data organization, that's going to be more critical than ever, especially with AI. So put a plan together and how to gather that voice. And if somebody's talking, or if there's CRM, or if it's online, listen and then do something with it.
Great.
One point, I think we're talking about a multitude of sizes. Because
Yeah.
when I hear you guys talk about how to scale that and so forth, I know you're thinking about very large customers with multiple folks involved. And I think about smaller agribusinesses and how they can scale it. All of this is factual and relevant. But you're right, it's going to be a lot easier for that smaller scale agribusiness. Like I saw a Central Valley Bean Co-op sitting over here. It's easier for you guys to simply ask your customer, how do you want me to communicate with you? Whereas your larger clients, you're going to have to ask that in a different way, but still ask it.
Yeah, definitely. We have to meet the customers where they are and how they want to be communicated with. Let's talk about pitfalls and common mistakes. What are some big missteps that you see agribusinesses making with marketing efforts?
I think when you are leading with a list of attributes or just the price, or because you want to say, okay, this is my product or this is my service, and get it out there right away, and so you educate, but you don't center the audience in that conversation and what solution it provides or what problem it solves. That can be a misstep, and I think it's a simple reframing of how that message is told.
Definitely.
Yeah, and that's the same thing where I think businesses think people care more about their products than they do. And it's not around how can I reduce your fear, or how can I help you make a confident decision so that maybe this next farm year is going to be better, right? So it's they think that people care more, and they don't do the talking to them to say what's really concerning you, and how can we help you.
Oh, don't forget to have a little bit of fun. I love Twitter. Yes, I said Twitter, not X. And some of the best accounts that are so well followed are those that reply back to you in a timely fashion and have a little fun with it. Bushel, Hellman's, Wendy's. Now, granted, we can't all have someone who does social media 24/7. But if you have a little bit of fun, and maybe even make fun of yourself from time to time, people interact with that, and they like that too.
And the consistency with it too. You can't just post every once in a blue moon and think that that's building a community. You have to be consistent with it too.
You can't call on your customer every once in a blue moon and think that's consistent too.
Or not answer the phone.
Thank you.
Yeah, and earlier somebody said something about being true to your brand, and I think the same is true of social media. Your social media needs to have a brand and a personality, and that's that consistency. Yeah. And so just having a plan around it. For sure. Where do we see people or companies wasting time and budget when it comes to marketing? This is probably a tricky question.
Oh, nobody wants to name names.
Yeah. I didn't say who, I said how.
Everyone wants to buy, but nobody wants to be sold to. So you don't want your messaging to just feel like an ad.
Yeah.
Well, even though it is one, but it needs a different feel.
I think too, whenever you, actually I just lost my train of thought.
I think that that's relevant though, because if you are putting that kind of content out there, it is wasting because nobody's going to look at it, nobody's going to pay attention to it. There's so much noise, right? People get bombarded with emails and content.
And I think it's about looking at marketing more than just, I've got emails, I've got postcards I can send, marketing is experiences as well. So what are you doing to provide an experience that's unlike anything else that people talk about, right? So that can become your marketing when people talk about you in the media.
What if it also includes your consumer? Because remember, we are all very public-facing when it comes to what we do in agriculture. And currently there's a lot of people who want to teach us all how to farm. So maybe part of that experience is also an educational opportunity for those who are non-farm who are watching too. And that could be valuable to your brand.
Definitely.
I think there's also a tendency in marketing, there's so many options, and it's like, where do I focus my energy? And there's this new shiny, and should I have a TikTok account, and should I do this or should I do that? And so if you are kind of always chasing that new shiny, or if you're spreading yourself too thin and you don't have a plan or strategy, and you're not making sure that you're sending the right message to the right audience at the right time, then that can be a source of waste as well.
Yeah, and being able to track the results of your efforts are huge, so that you can decide, was it impactful and should I do it more or less, or, yeah, I agree, Katy. So I think we, again, have a huge variety of sizes in here, and that might be a factor when we're talking about compliance and permissioning and things like that. Some of the things that are scary and maybe a limiting factor for some folks wanting to step into text messaging and things like that. So maybe we should talk a little bit about where's a good place to start for agribusinesses to try to understand all of those rules around, let's just use text messaging as an example.
I'm not really good with rules, so you guys, you should take this.
I think that whenever you're starting a new tactic like that, maybe you're not quite sure how you will use the phone numbers to text later, so there can be a tendency to collect all of that information up front and figure out the plan later, and that can get you into trouble if you don't get the right written consent up front. Because then you kind of have to double back and get those permissions up front. You also want to make sure that you're explaining what you're sending them and why you're sending it, so that it doesn't feel like spam. You want it to feel like a connection point and not like another effort that they have to field. If it's spam feeling, then you've missed the mark.
And I'll underscore that about getting the information before you need it. If I'm spending time giving you my information, it's because I want to communicate with you or I want to get something. We've had so many clients that say, well, I want to get their email and I want to get their phone number. Like, what are you going to do with it? We don't have a plan today. Don't ask for it if you don't have a plan, because then you're going to sit on it, and then if you have a plan in 6 months or a year, they're going to forget that they gave you their information, and then it's going to feel inauthentic and not like, why are they emailing me now? Why is that? So I think, and the part about compliance is, it's just about trusting and respecting people to say, I want to know why I'm getting information from you, and I want to know that I've given you permission. So think about all of that as just like a human connection. So people just want to grab all this data, but don't do it unless you have a plan.
Definitely, yeah. When you think about training and local teams and how they can deploy the resources that they might have, what are some ways that they should think about that staff that they have today? Maybe they don't have somebody that's classically trained as a marketer or went to school for it or anything like that. What can the sales rep, the agronomist, the bookkeeper, what can they do?
It doesn't always have to be the same person. There can be, during this time of year, your agronomists are swamped. They don't think about taking pictures and making videos. But maybe that's time where someone else in the operation can be a part of it and can be helpful. And then that agronomist may have more opportunity in their off time, right? In the winter months or something like that. There's never really off time. But I think additionally, make sure your staff understands that it's okay to say, I don't know, but I'll find out, because that proves that you're willing to be a resource and to be trusted to that customer. And you can show that story through your content, your social media, your one-to-one interactions with them. I don't think you should ever be afraid to say, I'll get back to you.
And I think if you bring them in during your strategic planning, whatever that looks like, get everybody on board on what the purpose and the objective of that strategy is, to say, hey guys, this year we're going to focus on understanding our customer so that we can make good choices. We're going to brainstorm ways that we can do that, all of us as a group, because everybody touches the customer at a different, it might be support, it might be sales, it might be marketing, it might be operations and product development. So getting everybody bought in on the why, and then think together and make this a group effort is how should we do this together? And then as you think about the advancement in AI and the need for that, what are we going to do when you get information? Where can we put it so that we can use it faster in the future? Because a lot of times we'll get like, this guy has a lot of knowledge and We did a research project here that lives in an Excel spreadsheet. So it's about being really smart about, we're going to think strategically about how we can be more relevant and speak to our clients, our customers, farmers, in a way that feels authentic, but we have to work together in that and put that information in one spot. And then we have an example. We have a customer that their social media person was going on mat leave. This happens to be in Canada, so she'll be gone for a year. And we worked with them to gather all of their workflow, all of their information, and they produce a lot of podcasts. They're a media company. And so we gathered all and we put together an automated AI agent, right? So we could basically say, as soon as you gather that information, drop it in here, and it automates all the way through to post review, and then you can review it, make sure it's okay, and post. So there's ways where you can take out all the levels that it used to take, but it's still relevant because you're taking the core information and you're still reviewing it. You're just taking out the time it takes for multiple people in the middle. So there are ways that's becoming more efficient.
Those real world examples really matter, especially to an audience like this. I have a vet clinic, right? There's 30 people on staff. They had no one who was doing their customer outreach, their media, until one day, one of their new vet techs said, I really have a passion for this. And they just let her run. And it turned out to be their best decision ever. So the passion that you find in your employees can be used wonderfully too.
Yeah.
I also love a ride-along, immersing yourself in their world and genuinely having a curiosity and getting that understanding, because when they see that you get it, you get some credibility there to kind of start that feedback loop so that they feel more engaged and more likely to come to you when they have an issue, and kind of working through it together to say, okay, this is kind of what I'm working with, and it's a two-way street instead of marketing kind of always pushing.
Yeah.
And I think hearing that feedback of what they're facing and customizing your resources to those challenges makes it more useful as well.
Definitely. Okay, I think this is our last question. So what's one simple, scalable marketing idea that any agribusiness could try over the next 30 days and you feel like they would see an impact?
I'll go on that one, and maybe this is speaking from my research mindset, but we mentioned about just talking to people. I'd encourage you to pick 5 customers, and don't talk to them like you want to sell them something. Just sit down and say, pick 5 concerns, and then say, I'm going to ask you 5 questions, answer them. I want your insights. This isn't about selling. This isn't about my product. It's about how you're thinking about things. Mm-hmm. And then take that data, and I look at data, take that insight and that heartfelt emotion from, it's not just data.
Yeah.
It's how they feel.
We knew what you meant.
And then take that back, and then if you can, use it. If you've got a custom GPT, use it if you want to go. But before all that, just find out the insights. Just sit down and have conversations with people, not to sell.
Yeah. I would say if there's a way that you can focus your efforts to engage with your community. And that can be, I think a lot of times, kind of like I mentioned before, with marketing, there can be the new shiny and all these different areas that you're pulled in because it's exciting. But if you can focus on one area, do that really well, test different things, see what works, what's going to be engaging with your community. Maybe that's a YouTube channel, maybe that's an email marketing campaign, something like that, where it's true connection points that feel really authentic, and do that really well instead of being pulled in a lot of different directions and doing a lot of things kind of so. Really focus on that one thing that's going to have the most impact.
Teachable moments are not just for teenagers with a driver's license, okay? We can use those with our customers and with our community in order to show something about our businesses that makes us relevant and viable, and a resource that they want to come back to time and time again to do business with.
Totally. Well, I really appreciate all the great insights you guys have shared, and I hope you'll stick around for Beer 30 and the Shindig this afternoon and this evening, because I'm sure folks might have questions for you, and I would encourage you guys to come ask them questions. But thank you all so much for visiting with us.